Hasn't taken this long to happen, has it? Women's face masks. How crazy is that? I got them yesterday, just because I wanted some quickly. These are the cheapest, and they're already marketing different colours and different types to the sexes. Utterly unbelievable, in my opinion. Thinking more deeply about people just being a neutral force in other people's lives. How do I qualify that? I've made a mistake in the past. I've seen people who I know are good people, don't have issues with their egos, and are more than willing to take criticism. And I've seen them say in arenas like social media, you know, that people are attacking them or giving them grief about something. And I thought, no, just because people aren't agreeing with you, it doesn't mean that they're giving you grief. And then I've thought again recently, and I've looked back at a couple of comments recently where I've thought, no, you can't expect everyone to agree with you. And I thought, okay, let's think again. A comment was made, it was a statement. It wasn't political, it was personal. And it required either people to just be aware of it, or maybe just be supportive, offering a kind of alternate view to what was being expressed was directly contradicting, in this person's case, 45 years worth of life and experience, and therefore a little bit on the unfair side. You know, how many times have we seen it? You give your story and people go, what I would do is, yeah, that can be a healthy part of a conversation for sure, but all too often we're trying to get out horrible poison from our system, and people will tell you that how their system dealt with it. You know, I've gone on and on and on about this over the last few months, but I know a few of you really relate to it. And yeah, all too often we're just not forced into it, but we choose silence to deal with our issues and find coping mechanisms that are on a solitary basis, because we can't trust sometimes even ourselves to give a supporting word, or maybe just a smiley face, and instead we give a set of opinions and some advice that are completely and wholly unasked for, unwarranted, and completely inappropriate. This car park's now completely full, all back to normal, while the pandemic is still pretty virulent. And I've seen a lot of people do some crazy things for addiction. We always associate that with drugs and alcohol and the like, but let's face it, all we need is food. It's really the only provision we need, aside from a couple of other things, and they can all be bought in the one shop, a supermarket. And this car park being full at such a time of great risk just shows how addicted people are to money and getting rid of it. It's ironic, really, isn't it, that it's so unpleasant and difficult to get hold of money, but people are so desperate to get rid of it. I guess it makes sense of their miserable jobs and miserable lives. You know, I'll be the first one to say that I enjoy a bit of retail therapy, don't get me wrong. I'm just as sick as everyone else, but I don't know, that is not a very encouraging sight, is it, when you think about the truth of what's going on in the world? It just strikes me as well, even the differentials in language we use to describe ourselves. You know, I regularly use the term broken to describe myself, and the further I delve into looking into my own psychology and other people's, I realise that it's not even a differential. We all are. You know, it's like saying we all have skin. We don't mention that on a daily basis. It's like having hair. We've all got that on our bodies. We don't mention that on a daily basis, but you know, we mention, you know, we laugh, we cry, we hate, we feel love. We don't mention them as a differential on a daily basis, but we all feel them. And we're all broken. Thus, and I will insist this till the end of time, we are by default what is considered broken. You know, the sooner we en masse do as much as we can to destroy the illusions of image, ego, self-importance, the closer we'll come to people actually ever opening up about what and who they truly are and how they feel about the world. It just seems very strange, you know, I guess every society has its taboos and its subjects that we don't go near, and we've seen so many change in our lifetime. Maybe what I'm talking about is something for the future. But people are so surprised by how open I'm willing to be about my grimy, darker side and everything like that, but I'm equally as surprised by the people who don't. I know I spoke to somebody some years ago about the fact that they had issues with their father's behaviour when they were in their early teens. And I freely admit, going back a long time now, I looked at it and thought, well, get over it. It's not now. Doesn't matter. What are you getting upset about that about? And the truth of the matter is, I really understand now. So much of what is buried, once you start opening up to being honest with yourself, so much of what's buried comes to the surface, and you realise you do have insurmountable differences and problems with people. Sometimes you've hidden them for such a long time that you don't even associate the problem that you've got with the creators of it. You lash out at other people, you know. But there's no getting away from the fact we really do need to start sort of being more honest with ourselves. Well, it's much later in the day now from when I started this video, and it's been raining for the best part of about 4 hours, which is really nice. It's incredibly warm as well. It's good to be out and about, and yeah, I like the rain. I really do. I think when you get those spates of really nice weather, it can seem like a really depressing prospect when it breaks, but I don't know. I think I might be changing a bit with my attitudes in general. My day commenced today with a monthly, well, it's turning out to be a monthly consultation with my doctor. It wasn't my regular doctor, which proved to be a bit of a problem. Now, one of my issues that I've had in life that has escalated somewhat is that I don't think if you've got serious people around you who are serious about you, you shouldn't have to, when they understand problems are afoot, you know, life-altering, very maximum power difficulties. You should have to tell them once, and once alone. I found very much, looking back over the years, with some of my inabilities, some being physical ailments that I've suffered that have been quite serious, some emotional, where I've said to people, this is how it is, I can't do it like that anymore. Oh yeah, we understand. Dave, you coming out with us 2 weeks later? No, really not up for it. Oh, come on! And it's just like, no, this is beyond you just being exuberant and wanting me there. This is making somebody who's got a problem get a little bit worse. Trust levels start to drop. Ability to confide or trust these people starts to disappear. Not in malicious ways, but, you know, I don't know where malice begins and ends sometimes. I really don't. Negligence, I guess, is another word that I should maybe start thinking about employing from time to time. But yeah, I'll get on to why the call from the doctor had its issues in a sec. My regular GP, who is a wonderful woman, and always, she's in the driving seat. She knows what you've said before. She takes extensive notes, and you know, it's not going to be something she remembers. All the notes are in front of her. Next time I see her, with the hundreds, if not thousands, of people that are in her sort of direct line of care, she's good. She really remembers stuff. Really makes sure you don't have to repeat yourself. She makes you reiterate some things that may have changed, but that's about it. The call today just took me back to all the times where friends totally ignored things that had happened to me. You know, back in the 1990s, I suffered some awful physical ailments that really restricted me in my 20s. And tell people, I remember my girlfriend at the time taking some people aside and saying, this is why Dave's been a bit off, and he's not quite the same person that he used to be, not quite as exuberant. Oh yeah, no, we understand. Then within weeks, I obviously couldn't I wasn't being listened to, and people kept inviting me places, and it was from the point of view, you know, when it's mutually beneficial as opposed to somebody wants you there. You know, mutual benefit always has to be a part of any meeting, any social event. But you know, it was awkward. It was awkward to say the least. And I ended up getting a real chip on my shoulder about people not listening. And the doctor's call today started with, "Hello there, and what can I do for you today?" And obviously you have to react politely. She's a wonderful woman who I've spoken to before, and a great doctor, very sympathetic. But that situation, it was the worst thing I could possibly have heard. What can we do for you today? It's like I've had 10 months of this now, and I've told you everything, some really deep, you know, how am I meant to condense the enormity of what's happened in my life yet again, when really 5 minutes of that call should have been stepped back from. There should be some kind of implementation in people's notes where like a note reminding the doctor, refresher, you know, where they've got a few paragraphs that say, you know, this person's been in this position, and they probably could do with not having to repeat themselves. You know, cancer patients, emotional patients, all sorts of people. You know, she may well have assumed, well, I'll look at his, you know, I've got him up on the screen, I phoned him, I'll look at his notes when he tells me what's up. For all she knew, you know, my name may have been somebody with an ingrown toenail, or somebody saying, I've just discovered some lump on my body, you know. I'm really not digging at the person, but it was not a good start. I've said before that I engage in these farces with the NHS to keep my name on the register, to make sure that the small amount of rent benefit I get keeps coming in. It's important to me, and I have to go through these things. If I had my way, if I'm honest with you, with regards to my mental issues, I would just be going it on my own. I wouldn't be doing nothing about it, but I'd be going it on my own, because what the health services in the UK have offered me so far is just an offer which I've taken them up on and found does nothing except make me feel worse in certain ways, is to just be drugged back into a shape that I never was. Had a wonderful conversation with this doctor that followed, but I make no secret of the fact that this monthly requirement of having to go back over things and reiterate the fact, you know, when you're looking at 4-week kind of increments of the year that you have to talk about, and you're basically saying I'm in no fit state to do anything, bugger all has changed. It's a world that makes you feel very guilty within days if you're sick. If you've got a job and you have a few days off, you will be reminded very quickly, well, you're going to have to go and see occupational health when you come back. You need to go and see a doctor. You need your illness legitimised, you know. And this is getting on for 9-10 months into this situation for me now. Nearly a year since the big event that really cracked me, as it were. The final event on the calendar that made me lose the plot. I didn't lose the plot though, there's the irony, I found it. Discovered so much about myself that was just hidden. I've gone on about that in the past. But anyway, it was all very much as it always is. Yeah, well, I'll call you again on the 29th of July and we'll see how you're doing then. I've signed you off work for another 4 weeks, another month. And it's just like, nothing's going to change, okay? My life before... Oh, hang on a sec, umbrella's fallen down. My life prior to everything that transpired last year was tolerable because of certain people who I love dearly, who I could come home to and just say, you're not going to believe the shit that I had to deal with at work today. It's like this for so many millions of people in the UK. If you work in a working class environment, I can only speak for that one, okay? Never worked in anything other than a working class environment. You'll be subjected to instant dismissal, level homophobia, racism, bullying. They're just all norms that have yet to be bred out of that environment, the working class working environment. That's why I take such issue with the whole middle class kickback against all of these issues that people think just because middle class people are championing it, they're somehow gone. And they're not. I started that job, and I'm repeating myself for the millionth time. And the day I started work, within 10 minutes of stepping into the van, I was exposed to an instant dismissal level homophobic comment. Not directed at anybody, but I was just thinking, you're just so confident. This is such an institutionally bigoted, nasty place that you're confident to say that to me. You know, I would, any environment in the world, if I walked in and said some of the things that I've heard, I'd be fearing for my reputation and my future. I really would. And rightly so, in all honesty. You know, it's 2020, it's not fucking 1910, you know? Things have changed a bit. But they haven't really. It's just that certain aspects of society have moved on, and other people need to be legislated, and they need to come kicking and screaming into what's right. And just because middle class people and their wristbands and their campaigns and their Indiegogos and their fucking bullshit on social media feel that things have changed, it doesn't mean anything has actually materialised in the world and altered. It's all the same. It's exactly the same. Working class environments are just the same shitty, nightmarish, bigoted hellhole as they were when I first left school in 1986. They're identical. It has to be said, it is really beautiful walking down through this avenue of trees in this heavy rain this evening. It's absolutely lovely. It's roughly about 6:30 p.m. now, and it is fantastic. I know the nature of some of these videos may seem like I'm very irate. I'm not. I just put the relevant passion into the act that is my life. Oh, and there goes my umbrella again. The one thing that I want out of the National Health Service is to be offered counselling. All of the women who were close to the suicide that I had happen close to me last summer, all the women involved with the situation were offered counselling by the police. None of the men were. There were only two of us, I guess, who were directly involved, who were male, but we were offered nothing. I was put on a waiting list for basic NHS counselling last November the 10th or 11th it would have been. I had my first admit defeat appointment, and I went and said, you know, I'm just not right, 2 months after what happened. And it's not forthcoming. I need to be in an environment where there are notes, where I can talk to somebody for an entire hour, and those notes are then passed on to my doctor to see the next time we speak that I can say what I want to say. I get 10 minutes to just cram everything. Once monthly I'm offered a 10-minute window with the GP to just update everything, see if anything with regards to what I need medication wise, or with regards to fit notes as they're called, you know, which excuse you being at work and allow you to continue being paid. You know, it's just that. And you know, I'm realising slowly but surely that with regards to the foundations of my life and moving forward, everything needs to be different to how it was going into this last summer. After the terrible event of last summer, I had a few weeks off work, and I tried by the end of September, less than a month after the sad event itself, going back to work. I was immediately on the first day put with somebody who's notoriously awkward, and the person who was his mate for the day, just a person who never cracks a smile, quite a young guy. But I said to them both, look, this is what happened to me a month ago. If I'm a bit slack today, just G me up a bit. And they said, don't you worry about it, it's all right, mate, don't you worry. Certain point in the day, the driver's mate said to me, do you realise I've done 75% of the fucking work today? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And it was at that point I did return to work a couple of times after that, in all honesty, but I just thought, what am I being subjected to here? What is wrong with the whole infrastructure where people think it is acceptable to converse with somebody like that? And the whole environment. Walk in one day, if you're working with people, they'll talk to you. Walk into the restroom the next morning, everybody blanks you. It's really good when your insecurity and your anxieties are getting the better of you, to realise that a lot of what you're thinking about the world and what could be perceived as, oh, well, that's just paranoia, is 100% in your face, irrefutable truth. That people in environments like that, I think it could be the same in any job environment, they get cliquey. People who've been there for many years feel like they're the security guard on the front gate who is in fact head of the corporation in their head. There's no way at this point in time I could return to it. I'd be too fragile, or on another day I'd be too volatile. Anybody talk to me like that again, I'd be sitting there twitching with my thumb. You know, I'd end up buying recording equipment so I could just change the place forever. There's nothing I can do on my own. I'm an individual. But, you know, some of the people who work there, wonderful. Met some lovely guys. Indeed, some lovely women as well. But the bullies run the show. The bullies completely run the show. And it's like when I talk to my doctor, I want them to say, you know, I haven't even got into the institutional level bullying that goes on in working class environments, and that one included, that I can't return to it. I am at a massive crossroads in my life where I need to get back on my feet. And my self-awareness levels have proved that that is beginning to happen. But me finding my feet at this point in time is discovering that I realise just how low I've sunk. And to move forwards, I can't move backwards, and going into any environment where I am treated like shit. I approached a supervisor one day and just said, you know, I'm finding every day, you know, after I've been there 3 or 4 months, I'm getting the blame for us being a bit late of a day, and I can't do things as fast as other people who've been there 12 years, you know. And so, don't worry about that. You know, the old guard always expect people to hit the ground running. The reality of the situation with any supervisor worthy of their mettle should be, what's the name of the driver? What's the name of the driver's mate? Which one was doing this to you? I'll just have a quiet word with them. It should be smacked down like a fucking sumo wrestler, you know. That's how it should be dealt with. Absolutely zero tolerance. But no, bullying environments are just so common, and they're just patched over. You know, some of the people who've still got jobs in that environment are bigoted and of a bullying nature that you would not believe. I was told by one guy within my first week of starting that job. He just said, "Oh, I'm usually a right miserable cunt to work with, but you're all right. You've only just started here, but I'd usually go fucking mental." Immediately sowing the seeds of, well, I know, you know subconsciously now that I'm going to be really pissed off with you the whole time, but I'll give you a get out of jail free card because you're new here. But that he'd already told me how pissed off you'll be. You know, it really makes you feel good for the next 8 hours. And, you know, getting the smallest of things wrong in your first few weeks. And the way people deal with it is not just, no, what we do is we do it this way. You know, just like that. Not somebody just pointing and gesturing and giving you the fucking silent treatment and having conversations with you in the middle of somebody in a van. Someone there, and they're having a conversation over you. Not once acknowledging your existence. Yeah, it does your self-confidence, even at the best of times, a world of good. It's a fucking lovely environment to have to work in. Really great. Seriously, there are so many misguided people in the world at the moment making all of these sounds about all sorts of issues. Let's get it just basically okay for everybody on the grassroots level to just be able to go and do your job. Go and do the most basic of things without harassment, bullying, and instant dismissal level bigotry as a standard. I can't believe the confidence with which people will say stuff that I honestly did think, having been out of the working arena for such a long time, I thought it all, you know, people would wised up and shut the fuck up, but they haven't. It's amazing. It's amazing. But yeah, the foundations of my life and what the options are for me to return to would see me crash and burn like you wouldn't believe. There's no way I can return to that. At this point in time, I realise how fragile I am. And I make no apologies for that. And do you know what the irony is? In that fragility, I'm fucking strong.